Hello, I'm John Ryan.
And I'm JD Orr. Awesomeness, USA Handball Talk.
You got muted there, strangely.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I can do it again.
Oh, hello, I'm John Ryan.
And my name's JD Orr, and this is the March Madness meets April Awesomeness podcast, the USA Handball Talk.
Uh,
I'm
the
working
guys
on
I
it.
could this off of
Yep.
Sportigo? The older guy always gives the younger guy a grade on his cleverness. And at this point, he'd be going like,
F
really?
minus.
Well, we don't have enough time for that. So we got so much handball to talk about. We need to roll right into it. So let me share the screen. We're going to talk about a quiet announcement. At least quiet. I say quiet because I didn't see anything on social media. I don't know if that's still the case or not.
I
Um,
didn't see anything. I saw plenty about the beach teams, but nothing about the roster.
let's see here. All right, that's my
No.
hiking adventure later. Let's go to the U.S. Max national team,
There's a
and
post
and
about
that's
the junior women's national team schedule, or at least the teams in their group, but that's it
okay.
from social.
Um, this is big news. And we talked. I talked a little bit about it with Mike King when we did the college preview, and this is the announcement for the. We're not calling it a B team. Team that's participating in the North American uh, Handball Confederation North
NORCA
American
Championships.
Championship,
Yep.
NORCA Championships, uh, here in a couple of weeks in Mexico, and they've announced the roster for. We're not calling it the B team, and it's not a B team
It's
exactly.
it's a solid team still.
And let's go a little bit over the roster that was selected. We'll just go in the order that they're listed there. Uh, Let me zoom it in so it can people can see it maybe a little bit better if they're watching it on YouTube.
Those those elder eyes as well.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Goalkeepers. Grayson Wide. I've seen him play in some junior
Yeah, I was
tournaments.
gonna say I thought he was youth or junior team, or his
Maybe
brother
both.
Brody, right?
Oh, Broderick. Yeah. Okay. Um, I don't know who this Benjamin
I
Ederson guy
tried to
is.
look him up, didn't find anything on the social media either. So coming out of the
Okay.
woodwork.
Cool. Uh, and then let's look a little bit at the backs. And there's several names that I don't really know. Um, and then a few names that I'm pretty familiar with. Um, in particular, Benjamin Edwards. I think this is going to be his opportunity to shine at a senior event. Still pretty young guy um, at center back. And then I also look at this. I look at Amar Amatovic. Uh, I'm assuming he's going to get a lot of playing time. It's going to be really interesting to see how well he does. Um, Maybe as the guy, I don't know. We don't know all the players, but they're going to be looking for him to not be the guy coming in to rest people, but this is going to be a good opportunity for him to show what he has. Um, and then Ben Liberty, I believe he's Israeli American,
Yep.
and he's played. It's been a while since he's played, but solid quickness. He also plays center back, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
And, um, I'll let you talk about some of those players, some of the other players.
Yeah, I know Matisse Walker was on the junior team from last year. Pretty solid player. Definitely good athlete, if I remember correctly. So him and Ben Edwards in the backcourt with Amar as well as the seasoned veteran, Mr. Briffy. That'll be a solid
That's
option.
that's a surprise to me. Um,
I,
I can't remember if it was last season or season before. It's like on, doesn't look like he's been playing. Older guy setting off into the sunset. You know, stop that record. I guess he's going to get another look here.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what the average age is for this team. I mean, just looking at this team, but I mean, he's probably a good 14 years older than most of these guys. Maybe like 10, at least 10. So
Don't get me wrong, solid player
yeah, yeah,
back
yeah,
in the
yeah.
day. Probably still pretty good. But yeah, an interesting selection. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
then
I don't know any of the other names. I
well,
looked up.
they say that the Adam El Garabri, it plays for New York.
Hmm, okay.
Um, along with Benjamin Briff. And then they say Reed plays for Nyack. I saw on the rosters for uh, Nationals at Spokane. I saw him on the California Eagles
Hmm.
uh, roster. So,
Joining the super teams.
eh, well, we'll see. It doesn't look quite
One
as
super team to another super team. So
that's a topic for another
another day.
podcast.
Yep.
And then I don't know anything about Martin Brunvold or Maximilian
I
Olsen.
I just followed Martin on Instagram. It looks like he's out of Norway. So young guy. Couldn't find Max Olson. It probably quite a few of those guys out there, but definitely some solid players, some solid guys that have had experience with Team USA before so far.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the wings. We'll first talk about the first two guys. I think are the left wings. I know Oliver Edwards. That's Benjamin's older brother. Solid player. Again, a great opportunity for to get a longer look at him. I don't know anything about Abdel Rahman Awad. Um, so
I
we'll
got nothing,
yeah,
nothing
nothing.
there. Couldn't find anything on him. So
And then we already talked about Tyree. Again, here's another guy. You know, just recently had a kid. He had to bow out of going to Pan Am Games. Maybe he's sticking that foot back in the door. Say, hey, don't forget about me.
yep,
Um,
guys, he's been around a long time too. So they know what you're getting with Ty.
well, maybe they're going to say, well, we knew what we had with Ty. Let's see if he still has it.
Yeah, yep.
And then Gary Phillips. This was a big surprise to me. Did he mention it to you while
He didn't
he was
say
in North
anything.
Carolina?
I didn't hear anything from him because what's interesting is that all the rumored names that I heard for people that were on this list are not on this list. Well, not all of them. Some of them are not on this list. So, um, it's kind of curious how the selection process went down. I didn't see it was a pretty tight window. I want to say that it opened and closed in a couple of days, so you had to act fast.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah, it
I'm
may
not
they're still taking
surprised.
finals, or they're still
Exactly.
in.
I'm not
Yeah,
surprised about Gary Phillips being a candidate. I'm surprised about him getting the time
yeah,
off in May to go do it. If it was a couple weeks later, I would be saying,
yeah, no
it's
problem.
you're just hanging out waiting for the seniors to graduate and do your summer programs. Why not? But he must be taking finals early, or you got an arrangement to take them late. But this is awesome
Yeah,
for the college MVP to be heading to a senior team event with it's not a B team. That is just awesome.
yep.
Awesome for the US, awesome for him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in a pretty competitive event.
Hmm.
Um, and then line players, I like to call them circle runners, but whatever. Uh, Alex Binderis, Maxim McCauley, we know those guys, but instead of playing behind Patrick Hute or Drew Donlin, Domagoy,
Yep.
um,
Paul.
Skarupa.
Yep.
These guys are going to have a chance to show what they can do on offense and on defense. This is going to be great for them.
Yeah, and Maxim played a lot of backcourt. Correct me if I'm wrong. The last couple events he was in. So,
He
um,
has, I guess he must be playing circle with his team back home. Um, so yeah, maybe this is like going to say, okay, let's see what you can do at circle. Oh, who knows? Maybe they'll end up floating them out to backcourt. Things aren't going the way they
yeah,
want. Um, and then don't really know a whole lot about the alternates. We got other stuff uh, to chat about. Overall, um, looking at their competition, uh, I would say now this is Cuba's tournament to win. I would say that they are the favorite. Um, but we're right there with Greenland, I think, with this team because the Greenland team's getting old.
hmm
And also watch out for Mexico.
yeah,
They showed that they could play and playing at home. It This tournament could be a real dogfight.
yeah. It should be good. Like you said, a good opportunity to get a lot of these guys that are kind of on the outside looking in, either a chance to really cement their names one way or the other. So you're going to see a lot of good, solid effort, I think, from this American squad.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the uh, I get people sending whining messages to me sometimes, which is fine. I do my own share of whining. Like, hey, you know, I'm I need, I just want the opportunity to show what I can do.
hmm
Okay, here you go.
Yeah, I mean that's where I looked at, when we knew this tournament was coming up and we talked about the U.S. already having qualified, via the wild card and what this roster might look like, or even if a team was going to be sent, because there's conversation about saving the money and not sending a team. When I look at the roster from a money saving standpoint, only what, three of them will be stateside, four of them it sounds like, for Adam as well. But
Right.
four out of 16, it's not a cheap. It's no longer a cheap event as it may have been. So that's my only kind of frustration there. Not trying to make it cheap, but still just. Uh, you got a lot of hype for Gary. Obviously, Gary's a great player. I'd like to see, that hype and opportunities for some other guys here stateside that have, put that time in, but aren't, getting the opportunities to play in Europe, obviously, because they're not ready to jump ship on their life and go play handball on the side. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's always been a little bit of a mystery to me is exactly what the finances are for a event like this. Um, I don't think the IHF chips in for the continental championships. And then the question is, what does our federation pay for, and what are we uh, expecting athletes to pay for? And how is that decision made? And for what amounts?
yep,
I like bottom line, are these guys paying for a plane ticket
right.
to go play in Mexico? Haven't seen any GoFundMe's.
Yeah.
um, but
I know for
yeah,
my time, it was either you're paying for the flight or you're paying for, food and lodging, or so it's one or the other. Very rarely was it both. Very rarely was it both covered. So
yeah,
not sure what the situation is here, but
yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll be following this closely. Let's go back to, as what we promised, talk a little bit about the collegiate women's competition, uh, which was a little over a week ago, I guess. And the results from that tournament, five teams participating, two from North Carolina, two from West Point, and then your Ohio State Buckeyes. Um, they played similar to what the men did. They played a not quite round robin, which part of it I really like. I love symmetry. Who doesn't love symmetry? But then again, who doesn't want to see West Point play each other and North Carolina play each other? Nobody, nobody wants to see that.
Right.
Nobody wants to play it. So I think it's good that those games, if you're going to decide, let's make this a little shorter. Those are
Yep.
the two games to keep out.
Eliminate. Yep. Exactly.
And here was the overall standings of that group play. Um, no surprise here. Uh, Maybe a surprise by how much they won by, but I guess they've been pretty much been doing that all season. The West Point first team, West Point Black.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that goal differential, I think there's a pretty steep game there with Tar Heels that they had a 30-point win. That might have skewed the numbers a little bit there, but um, I think there were some good hard battles. I know that uh, at least the Carolina first team and Ohio State team, I think, gave them a decent run for their money and then kind of ran out of gas on both fronts, I would say. So,
Yeah, it looks like North Carolina lost to them by 10. And then where's the you guys lost by 15.
yeah,
Um, and then there was actually a pretty tight contest I saw most of it between the North Carolina women and the Ohio State women. Went
yeah,
right down to the end of the match as to who would get another shot at um,
black for the
taking on
final.
West Point Black. Um, but as it was, Carolina got the tie and they had the advantage in goal differential. So they ended up playing West Point Black again in the final. Um, and then uh, West Point Gold played the Tar Heels, and then they played Ohio State, beating you guys by a close game, 16 to 14 to take third. And then West Point Black, no doubt about it, they just dominated Carolina from start to finish to win the gold medal. So very workmanlike performance by the West Point women. Congratulations to them. No surprise, they dominated the All Star team with four selections,
Hmm.
and then Arian Clerk, I think, well deserved MVP, as also the leading scorer for the tournament.
It's good to
Um,
see her at nationals and have some supporting cast as well because she's got a couple other young freshmen on the team now that I'm looking to see them carry the torch, which would be cool. But yeah, she's been putting the team on her back for quite some time, and we didn't have her last year, um, or or the year before. Now that I think about it, because she's been on national team duties, so she's been unable to really play at nationals. So it's been good to have her. So
well, that's a little bit of a side when you're talking about scheduling, and sometimes things come up. But yeah, if we're going to try and build up our collegiate championship, we really want to try and schedule that so that our best players can be at that event.
hmm
Um, uh, so and she played in France for a semester. I
yep,
think you can tell she's picked up some skills. Um, here's a little bit of a curveball question, and it's come up before. I think she's more of a wing than a backcourt player. I don't think maybe she's Matthias Gitzel. You know, don't tell me I'm playing wing. I'm going to play backcourt.
yeah, yep.
Um, but and this happens. You got the player that um, they might be more of a natural wing, but they're end up being the best backcourt player, so they're saying playing backcourt. How do you feel about that as something that hurts your development for your primary position because you have to? What are some of the pros and cons? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's tough, and I'm facing this same kind of problem with Zach Greenstein of Pitt. He's been asking me about transitioning to wing as to get himself, more value for other teams at a higher level and stuff like that. And um, it's tough because, like for instance, Josh Coe, when he started the team at Case, he was playing wing because that's what he played at Cal Heat. And I told him, I was like, hey, you're the only person on the court that knows what's going on. Like you have to play back to help the ball move around, And so same kind of thing with Ariane, from her size standpoint, yeah, it probably makes sense. Wing would be a spot, but she knows how to move the ball. She knows where to be. She has good agility. She has good burst. She's got a good shot. So, at the college level, absolutely, the backcourt's where you want to be. But with her, like we can spend a lot of time, working on, getting these other facets of her game involved during practice, so that one of the things that we used to do a lot was kind of really make everybody play every position, so you kind of knew, what it felt like. Not all the time at every practice, but every couple practices, you kind of just work people through different shots from different positions so that hey, if I ever end up in this pitch situation, I'm prepared, you know, for my team, whatever the situation may be. So I think it's one of those things with handball that I feel like people need to be very adaptive, similar to basketball. Like I don't necessarily need the point guard playing down in the paint, but there might be a sequence where he might end up down there and he's got to be prepared to know how to get out of it or rotate back out. So
Yeah, there are some pros to it, and you brought up exactly what I think. When you're a wing and you play backcourt for a while, you understand more about what the backcourt's doing and how you need to position yourself better in your timing. I think it helps you along that standpoint. But to the other point, it
yeah,
doesn't help your skill development at taking wing shots if you're not taking competitive wing shots
yep,
in a game. Um, and I did not realize I hadn't thought about Greeny, maybe
yeah,
being a better fit for wing, but Kryman,
yeah,
he's got to play backcourt on that team. And
yeah.
the same for Josh Coe.
I guess both of them are asking at playing it for more of the adult club teams at nationals and stuff like that, and they're like, "Hey, I got to get better at wing. What should I
Yeah.
do?" And I'm like, "You just got to start taking wing shots. Get those steps down, and get the jump." And
One last thought about the West Point women, and I I think it's right that they're really I don't know if there's really an MVP on that team. They're like a machine, a cog, machine with all the cogs in place. They almost seem like interchangeable,
yeah,
and maybe the skill level. They're good handball players, but it's just like, damn, they just wear other teams down. They're in shape, and there's no weak spots, and it's just grind them out. Yeah,
yeah.
you can't stop us.
It's the same thing, but to a little bit higher level on the men's side. I mean,
Yeah,
they're all athletes coming out of, at high school athletes coming to college, place where they have to work out and train and be in shape all the time. So it's like you already came in athletic with a sports background, and now you're in peak physical condition. So, you know, it's nothing against anybody else at the college front, but they take the physical side of things a little more seriously than some. So it makes things a little bit difficult to, you know, that athleticism and exercise might outweigh some of the handball skills, just to your point, just over time.
and I guess what I'm getting at is I don't see any future national team players there. Yeah, maybe if they decided that was their thing,
Hmm.
and they could go there, but it just didn't really see, nobody just really stood out to me, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I think
That's
in years past I've seen some play from some of them that I was like, okay, and I didn't get to watch as much of it this past weekend as I have before, especially the black team, the West Point black team. I didn't get to see as many of their games because I used to usually commentate a lot more than normal. But there are some girls that is like, okay, like if we could get you in the right system, then there might be some potential there. But at the same time, um, they have their obligations with the military and things like that, so it's not as easy to see them have these opportunities to play with the national teams.
All right, we got that checked off. Let's go to our next topic, April awesomeness. Boy, you better trademark that before somebody steals it.
I was like, what starts with an A? That's sounds good. Awesomeness, yeah.
Uh, all right, so yeah, we talked about this. I just put my thoughts down on paper, I guess, um, and basically, and you can see it there. I, I'm done with the weekend tournament. I won't say I'm done with it. I mean, I understand why we have it,
Yep.
but I'm just so tired of it. And maybe I know I'm older. It's been over 20 years since I've played now. Um, I remember always wanting to get games in, but I am just like I'm just it just doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Yep. And I
Um,
think what a bracket allows is, I think you mentioned in your article is that in group play, you have the opportunity to lose a game and still, advance or whatever it may be. With bracket, if you lose, you're done. And I don't think that, obviously West Point hasn't lost a game against another college team in X number of years. But it still allows that opportunity that should they slip up even just once, we might have a new national champion. So I think the craziness aspect of that would be valuable. And what you have presented here, it still allows people to have games throughout the weekend, and there's
yeah,
still.
yeah. Let's just back up a bit. In the commentary, and just for anybody that's listening that doesn't know what we do here in the U.S. or hasn't really stepped back and saying like, what do we do again? Why do we do this? Is we typically play what I refer to as a weekend tournament, which is essentially a standard handball tournament crammed into 2.5 days with group play, followed by semifinals and finals, or sometimes, depending on the size of the group, you'll just go straight into placing games. Um, and we do that because of the great distances that we have to travel and the desire to like, well, damn it, if I'm going to travel this far, I'm going to get as many games as possible. And, just a general desire to play games because
Yep.
it's not like you can just go across the town to go play somebody, once or twice a week. That's just not an option in many parts of our country because of the great distances involved. Um, and it's problematic. And I just saw it there, and that's how what we played for the Collegiate Championships. That's what's going to be played in Spokane here in a couple weeks. Um, it's it's a lot of games crammed into a short period of time, and I can just, it's anecdotal. I don't have any science to it. I probably could by putting, little sensors on people's backs about how fast they're moving Friday night compared to Sunday morning. I can
Hmm.
just tell. I can just tell. Some people are just like,
Oh, you can see it in their face. I mean,
what time is our plane leaving again? Or,
yep.
oh my goodness, we got an 8 hour drive back to Ohio.
Yep. It doesn't take
um,
much. I mean, you can definitely across the board, and especially when you're not playing for anything, if you're not in a final or a placement game, it's kind of tough to say, okay, like I woke up sore, tired, grumpy. I gotta get my body right, ready to go to battle against another group of guys that are in the same boat or girls or whatever it may be. So it's tough. It's tough. So
when I was younger, I felt like, yeah, I'm in better shape than a lot of these guys. I'm going to shine now. I'm ready to roll. I got in my 30s. It's like,
it's
damn,
yep,
this is hard.
yep.
Um, but I'll go argue against myself. That West Point versus Carolina final, that was still a pretty damn good game, but it was also a tired game.
Yep.
Um, let's see. We got our 10-minute warning. Let's delve a little bit more into how this would look. So we're talking about an Elite Eight, and I took the top five and the top three from the five
D2.
teams
Yep.
from D1 and the top three. And this would be an interesting tournament if
Yeah.
this was what was shaped up. And when we saw West Point Black, they took care of San Jose State pretty easily. But boom, like you said, right at the top, you and Ohio State and Air Force, winner go home, baby.
Yep.
That would be one hell of a match
That'd
right there at
be,
the top.
yep. All the marbles right out the gate there. So I know both of those teams will be fighting pretty hard for it, and then just to have the opportunity to go play against the absolute monster that is West Point Black. So
In the lower bracket, also, West Point Gold would be favored over Pitt, but like Pitt keeps improving. Yeah, that would be a very interesting game next year.
yeah,
Um, and I think Carolina would probably take care of James Madison, but in the realm of possibility, we'd see. And then because you have a bracket on both sides, teams would still keep playing.
right.
And I guess what you were alluding to, or what I was alluding to, that Sunday consolation game, you might be a little bit more motivated if it was just your third game that you were playing. And one thing that I would introduce maybe is something for the fifth place team, something that would maybe help with their seeding for next year. Um, to give teams like an incentive to like, oh, we need to, this will get us a leg up next year when we're looking to get seeded for the Elite Eight tournament. Um, so that's it in a nutshell. I talked a little bit about the timing of the matches, which could be a concern. How do you feel about a team that played twice on Saturday versus a team that played one on Friday, one on Saturday, playing each other on Sunday? Big advantage or
Ah,
small advantage?
I don't know. Like it's tough because, like, for instance, I think we talked about this a little last time and at nationals. It's like, when you get right into the meat and potato matches, you basically have to get your guys in a game simulation, just from the travel aspect. Like, okay, we gotta, this game, this is go time now. We don't have any cakewalk games to kind of practice on. We gotta figure things out and be ready to absolutely fire on all cylinders. So, as far as playing Friday night or Saturday morning, I think our guys would probably prefer to play two games Saturday than play Friday after sitting in the car for 8 hours. But, um, if you did a Saturday morning, a Saturday evening, and then a Sunday mid morning afternoon, like, I think that'd be okay. But,
How
it
how
all
do you feel
depends.
about how do you feel about showing up a day earlier and having, all four quarterfinals on Friday?
Like, um, I think like if we had the ability for everybody to get there and have the game start, noon on Friday or something like that, I think that could probably work out. I think it really all comes down to kids and being able to get out of class, and if there's exams. I mean, we had kids this past trip that they got out of an exam at 10:30 and we left at 10:35. Like, they ran from their from their exam room to the parking lot, and we got in the car and drove off. So,
Yeah. Okay.
um, so that's one of those, like, you can move what you can, but because nobody's a varsity athlete, the teachers are basically like, I'm not going to let you make this up. I'm not going to let you move this around. Like, it's one thing to, homework or something like that. Or some of them are nice enough, but typically not.
Um, let's talk a little bit about seeding. And I think I'm not sure exactly how Mike King seeded the teams, and what sort of input he got, but I think he did it was a pretty solid job. It was pretty accurate, I think.
I would say it's pretty
But
obvious for the most part, usually, but continue.
yeah, it's not always going to be obvious.
Right.
and that's probably my biggest concern with this sort of format is we if we went to it, we'd really have to
Got to
uh,
bring back
put,
the college rankings.
you would bring back the college rankings and uh, probably twist some arms to make sure there's more college on college games played during the regular season and at the right times.
Yep.
That would
And
take some
consistent
coordination,
format.
organization,
Yep.
because sometimes you guys have like if it became such that the Trailblazer Conference tournament was going to decide who was going to get the fourth and fifth seed, fourth
Yeah.
seed versus a third seed. Hey, might make sure you got your best players
Right.
available for that event. Um, um, what's your overall thoughts? Do you think this is the right format? Do you think there's others that we should consider? What's your
I
take?
am, I'm very much on the stance of trying different things out and seeing, what sticks and what doesn't stick. I do like the D1, D2 idea for sure. So I think whether that's, having it in a bracket form or in a pool play form, I think is we got to get all the teams on board with it because realistically, if we don't have buy-in from people, it's never gonna really have much longevity. But me personally, like while I realize the bracket gives us less of a chance to win a national championship, I think it's just overall going to be more entertaining in some aspects. So you'll definitely get a lot of good games that way. Um, but you also the downside is get a lot of games that might not matter because once teams lose their first round, we have to find an incentive to keep the games interesting. So that's the only downside to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there are pros and cons. Obviously, those first four matches
Yeah.
pretty damn important. Semifinals, we already have a situation where a semifinal is a do or die.
Yep.
Um, so not much change there. Um, yeah, from my perspective, I'm done seeing the the grind them out Sunday
Yep.
morning games.
Yep.
I'm just I think this solves that problem. And I think it could also be something that structure wise, and that's my next commentary will be something that you can promote better, that you can showcase it better. You're
Yep.
going to get better games with less tired people, and um, the
It's
other
very
thing is
clear
very
who's
clear cut.
who's competing. Exactly. Yep.
You know where you stand. You know what's got to be done. Um, so I wrote the commentary. Obviously, I'm on board with it.
Yeah.
I got some positive feedback. I think Aaron Ham liked it, or is definitely interested in it.
I think, maybe, again, it's one of those things you see a lot of at the college level, some other conferences or even just like in football in general, where these other leagues are kind of rolling out ideas, seeing what works, and then you see the NFL maybe pick them up. So that's where like doing this with like the D2, maybe next year and seeing how they like it, and how it goes with the D2 group. And if we have enough teams theoretically, because we had 15 teams at on the men's side this year, and um, so if we got to find one more team, UVA dropped out last minute. Johns Hopkins was supposed to be there, so theoretically we could probably pull this off. But yeah,
Well, we're running out of time, JD. So for Mr. JD Orr, I'm John Ryan, and thanks for listening.